Hello friends, myself Shriram. Welcome to another video. Now we know how do we write a program for computing simple interest. So now in this program, now we are going to modify this program so that we can take input from user and we pass that input to the program. That means now I need to have a way or a mechanism where user gives the input, then that input gets stored at a particular variable, that means at a particular location in the memory, and then I basically should know how do I basically achieve this. So let's get going now. So here now what we will do is we will go to the program, and when we go to the program we can just update the program so that now the principal can be taken as an input from the user. So I have just made principal to be 0 and then we will ask the user to provide the input. So what we can now do is we can write a message here to the user and we can ask user to enter principal amount, and we can basically give space here, little bit of space. And now the way in which we need to do this is there is a function which is available to us which is called as scanf, and then in this scanf we should be able to take the input using this function. We should be able to take the input from the user. So how do I do it? So basically here we will use the formatter which is a percentage %d, and then using the percentage %d we will now need to get input. Now if I give just p, then it's not going to solve my problem. Why? Because I need to put the input that has been given to me to the location which is given to me here as the name p. That means we have defined the variable p. So we would like the value whatever user inputs should be going to that variable. That means it should go to the location which has been assigned when we say int p here. So to do that there is something called as address of operator or ampersand. So this is called as address of operator. So let me just put a comment. We can put whichever the comment we are comfortable at. So this is basically the address of operator. This is called as address of operator, and it is basically considered or it is given as ampersand or and symbol. So this particular thing is a and is a address of operator. So using this ampersand I can basically get the address of p. That means now this particular p is available to me so that I can whatever the input that I give that can be made available. And then you already have initialized n to 3 and then r to 6, and then the rest of the program can remain the same for the time being. So let's now run this program and let's see what happens. So we will simply run this program. So this is now asking enter principal amount. Okay. Now if I want to show you, it has basically first build the program. Here it has used the compiler cl.exe and all that command it has given, which has been done automatically. And then it says if there are no errors, then that means it has completed successfully. And then when you basically see our situation, that means the program that we are trying to run, so it is asking us now to enter the input. So let us say that I want to invest 5,000 Indian rupees. So I will give 5,000. So here it has computed 5,000 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 6 divided by 100, and then it has printed the simple interest for 3 years on the rate of interest is 6%, then is 900. So the calculation is correct. Now here one needs to understand the other data types also. Why? Because there is a chance that rate of interest, the number of years, or even for that matter principal can be a decimal number. It can be essentially a number which is a real number. That means I need to have a way to get that particular input. So to do that I will have to define these variables as per their data type. Why? Because here we have made principal to be integer. Now I would like, say for example, rate of interest to be changed to say other data type and say which is float. So I will now basically remove from here and I will have here float. So float is now going to basically tell me, or it helps me to define a variable which can be basically used to store a input which is a floating point number, or essentially it's a decimal number. So let us say that I define here float r, and for the time being I will make it say 0, or for that matter I can even make it say 6.5, and then I can do the calculation here. Now needless to mention, now my simple interest should also be float. Why? Because now if I have principal as integer, if I have number of years as integer for the time being, and if I make rate of interest as 6.5, then obviously my simple interest calculation can have decimal numbers. We will study more about type conversions in further video, but it's a common sense right now that if I have some number in a decimal number, then there is a good chance that this output also can be a floating number, or essentially it will be a decimal number. So how do I tackle that? So to tackle that, I basically now need to remove this SI from here, and then I should have here SI, and then obviously I can make it say 0.0. Okay, so now I have initialized simple interest. So now what is happening? Now this particular simple interest I need to print. So obviously I cannot print using percentage d. Why? Because now the simple interest is a float. So for that, the formatter that I have to use is percentage f. That's the interesting thing about the way in which now I can show my output. So let's now execute this program. So once again it is basically asking us to enter. So let me now make once again give input as 5000 Indian rupees, and now you will see that it has computed whatever it has computed. Okay, so I need to just correct this program, and here now I have made RS6, so I need not give RS6, and it should take RS6.5. Why? Because I have initialized R to 6.5, or I could have done it here as 0.0, and then here I could have done the way in which I have done earlier, like say 6.5. So let's once again run this program now. So let's run this program. So it is saying enter the amount. You can see this now, it has become 97.5 or whatever. So the thing, that means the point here I am just trying to make it is, it has changed the value. So that is the beauty of basically the thing that we just have changed. So we can try now this, we can also take the input from user and play with it. So let's try to give the input as something different. Say probably we can give here 6.12 or something. Okay, 6.21. And we can just run this. Yeah, you can see now the output has come as simple interest is 931.5. So it's essentially a floating number. Now the important point is, why did I use this ampersand? It's an address of operator. So that means now we need to understand it. So for that we can simply do the debugging, and we can basically understand it. So how do I do that? So here I can simply say start debugging. So I can put here breakpoint and say I'll put breakpoint here, and we can understand these things from here. So let me just put breakpoint, and then we can put breakpoint in the end. So let's go to run, and we will say run start debugging. So here we have basically started debugging, and in the watch you will see we have added these things earlier. So now I want to change it, and we will add here P. Why? Because it's a principal amount. Then we can add furthermore, say for example I want to add say rate R, and then I can add say simple interest. Okay. Now I will also add another thing as ampersand of P, and I will also add another thing as something which is called as say ampersand. Yeah, I think this is good enough for the time being. Okay. Now here you will see that now I'm just going to execute this line. So you will see that okay, so it's asking us to enter the input. So let's give the input, say 5,000 in Indian rupees, and now you will see that principal is basically 5,000 rupees. Why? Because even if I hover the cursor, it can show us, but here in the watch we can see P is 5,000 Indian rupees. Then here it will tell rate is 6.21. That is what we have initialized. Rate is 6.21. Now comes the very important thing, ampersand P. So here you will see whenever I have given the input, this ampersand P was taken. That means AND operator or address of operator was used. And using this scanf, essentially using this percentage D is used for integer, and then basically it has got this value of P, and that's why the value of P is now 5,000 rupees. So if you just click here, you will see the value or the data which is contained into that particular address or essentially the location which is given to us by ampersand of P is this particular address, whatever 0x and all that, it's a pretty big value, and it shows in the curly bracket 5,000. That means it contains 5,000 Indian rupees, or 5,000 is the input. We can update this code and we can understand a little more about this. So let me now little bit change this, and instead of giving this rate of interest as hard coded one, and even the n we can give, so we can give all the three as input, but right now I don't want to give. I will simply give only one as input. So here I will say enter principal amount, and I will say and rate of interest, rate of interest. So instead of rate of interest, I will simply say rate. It's a pretty big statement otherwise. So and rate. Okay. So how do I do that? So for that now I will be using ampersand of R, and here now I need to change, and I should make it percentage of F. So here D is used for integer, F is used for floats or a decimal number that you are trying to get. Okay. So let's now try to run this program, and let's see how it happens. So let me just stop this. Okay. So we are done scanf, and then we are asking user to enter principal and rate, and then we got the input, and then we can finally print the calculation. Okay, so good enough. So let's first run start debugging, and then we can run without debugging if you require. Okay, so essentially it has come to this terminal, and it is waiting. That means P is, it has initialized P to this one. So if I just say step into, so you will see P has become 0. You can do from here, and then N, obviously we have not put watch, but rate of interest is some garbage right now, so it will become 0. So you will see now rate of interest is 0. Similarly, simple interest is 0. Then we will step into it. So if I just continue, so it is asking us enter principal amount and rate. So let me now enter here 5,000, and say we will once again enter 6.21, so that we know the answer. And then you will see basically it has taken the input, and then we need to do this job. So it is going to compute. So you will see it has computed SI to be 931.5. You can see that, and at the address ampersand of P it is 5,000. Similarly I could do R. So if I just put a watch here and say ampersand of R, that is an address, and the address, in that address the value is 6.21. Forget about the other thing. So point is this is 6.21. That's an internal representation, so we will not worry. So it's a 6.21. So the 6.21 basically is stored in R, and the address of variable R is whatever this number is, 0x12ff9cc and all that. Okay, so that's the important point. So now we will continue. So we will now just continue, and it has printed simple interest, and then it will print the final answer as 931.5. So that's the way typically we can write a program. So here what have we learned? So the important thing that we have learned is how do I basically make use of address of operator, and then accordingly we make use of scanf function, and in that scanf function we make use of percentage %d and percentage %f. So percentage %d is used for integer, and percentage %f is used for floats, and then you use ampersand, and we can put in watch and see the address, and we use this address, basically ampersand, at the time of getting the input, and then obviously you compute simple interest, and finally we use printf with a percentage %f again, and backslash n is used to go to the next line, otherwise it's not required, and then we simply print the simple interest, which is essentially the answer. I hope you basically got this particular point, which is about how do I write a program. Thank you.